Ukraine is one of the largest forges of modern weapons not only in the West, but also in the whole world.
Our defense cooperation is a real trump card. This is a logical continuation of our deliveries. We see our task in helping Ukraine negotiate from a position of strength.
While in the Russian Federation, the dictator declares plans to cut the defense budget due to the difficult situation with the economy. 6.3% of Russia's GDP for defense needs is 13.5 trillion rubles. And our entire GDP is 223 trillion rubles. So 13.5 from 223 is a lot or a little. The Ukrainian military-industrial complex, with the active assistance of European allies, is confidently expanding.
How Europe hopes to turn Ukraine into a steel porcupine. Investments in the country's defense industry are the best way to keep it in battle.
Long-range and FPV drones, armored vehicles, artillery, missiles and RP. France, Germany, Britain, Denmark, Poland, Norway and many others have joined the joint production with Ukraine, and in the near future, perhaps the United States. During the last meeting between President Zelensky and President Trump, by the way, the meeting was very constructive. Much attention was paid to the defense industry of Ukraine. He is really interested in this, which indicates the serious interest of the United States in cooperation with Ukraine. What weapons of Ukrainian production is the West investing in, and in what is Kyiv already showing record results for them? About this and more, next in Arsenal. Back in Soviet times, Ukraine was a major arms manufacturer. With the collapse of the USSR, the industry gradually fell into decline. The dawn began after the start of a full-scale invasion of the Russian Federation. Kyiv was able to rely on the existing engineering base, a new technological sector and Western allies with their modern arms manufacturers. On June 30, 2025, the head of the German Foreign Ministry Johann Wadifel arrived in Kyiv on an official visit. The minister did not arrive alone, but with a large delegation of German arms manufacturers.
We want to create new defense enterprises together with Ukraine so that Ukraine itself could produce faster and more. That is why, I think, for the first time I have brought with me a delegation from the defense industry of the Federal Republic of Germany. And I am very glad that they are accompanying me. Our defense cooperation is a real trump card. This is a logical continuation of our deliveries.
In 2025, the volume of aid to Kyiv from the Bundestag will reach 9 billion euros. A significant part of the aid will be directed to the development of Ukrainian German arms production. In the case of Germany, we are talking about several different weapons at once, from missiles and armored vehicles to the production of ammunition. We are very pleased with the cooperation. The first plant to start operating in Ukraine was a plant for the repair of equipment. An ammunition plant is currently under construction. And the third plant we would like to build would be a plant for the production of anti-aircraft systems. In terms of military aid and the development of the Ukrainian military-industrial complex, Britain follows Germany. While Kyiv's cooperation with Berlin is primarily about heavy equipment and ammunition, London is concentrating on the supply of modern drones and investments in Ukrainian manufacturers. At the moment, we can say that Great Britain is actually leading the anti-Putin coalition. A striking example is that it was Great Britain that chaired the last Rammstein. It was this country that organized another coalition of military technical assistance to the Ukrainian defense forces just at the moment of the transfer of drones and their production, including on the territory of Ukraine. In 2025, the United Kingdom will invest a record $472 million in the production of drones for Ukraine. In addition to financial injections into Ukrainian manufacturers, London, guided by our experience, has increased investments in drone manufacturers in small enterprises several times.
During the first 3 years, Britain will finance the purchase of a whole range of Ukrainian drones, which will be manufactured on its territory. While the war is going on, all products will be sent for the needs of the defense forces. After its completion, Great Britain and Ukraine will share the produced drones.
Today, Ukraine is the world leader in the production of drones. According to the Center for Strategic Communications of Ukraine, in 2025, Kyiv plans to produce 2.5 million drones on its own. Given its extensive experience in creation and practice in use, Ukraine is a very profitable partner for any European country. It is not surprising that France is not standing aside either. At the NATO summit in The Hague, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and French leader Emmanuel Macron agreed to launch the production of drones with the participation of the largest French automobile company Renault in Ukraine. France mobilized funds from frozen Russian assets and transferred them to Ukraine. It is important that we continue to help Ukraine develop its ability to produce its own equipment. This is exactly what France will do, cooperating with Ukraine. Well, and not with drones, but together. In the case of Denmark, the country that provides the largest aid to Ukraine as a percentage of its own GDP, namely about 2%, investments are not in drones, but in the production of Ukrainian Bogdan self-propelled guns. To date, Copenhagen has purchased dozens of Bogdans for Kyiv. Thanks, in part, to Danish investments, Ukraine has become one of the largest manufacturers of self-propelled guns in the world. Artillery is still the queen, and Ukraine has mastered the production of howitzers. Today, Ukraine can produce 40 Bogdan Sow per month. Let us recall that at the beginning of the war, we had only one Sow, and production had not yet been put on stream. When we talk about 40 Bogdan Sow, this is the capacity of the Ukrainian military-industrial complex, that is, potential production capabilities, but these capabilities can be used if there is financing for the state defense order and, accordingly, attracting foreign investment. The current figures are impressive both in themselves and against the background of other major players in the arms market. For example, the Russian Federation also produces about 35 to 40 howitzers, while the largest European countries, France, Germany and Britain combined, produce twice as few. This is evidence, by the way, of the very, let's say, universal capabilities of Ukroboronprom. And most importantly, that is, engineering solutions. That's the main thing. That is, this indicates that the mines in Ukraine remain, only financing of the Ukrainian defense industry is needed. That's all. Do not forget to write in the comments what types of weapons you would like to learn more about. Like this video and, of course, subscribe to our Arsenal channel. The link is in the description under the video.
For the first time in its history, Ukraine has developed a domestic ballistic missile. According to expert forecasts, assessments and evaluations, its range allows it to reach Moscow and even the entire region, covering most of central Russia and beyond.
Initially, the complex was originally designed to create and develop extended-range missiles capable of effectively hitting targets at distances of 800 kilometers or even more.
What is currently known about Ukrainian ballistics? What targets can it destroy? How many such missiles has Ukraine assembled, and will the Russians be able to shoot them down? This is what we'll discuss today in Arsenal. It has long been said that developments in the missile field have not ceased. Rumors about the existence of Ukrainian ballistics and its use have also leaked to the media. Now this information has been officially confirmed by President Volodymyr Zelensky.
I thought it was too early to talk about this, but I would like society to appreciate it, especially our people who work around the clock at defense enterprises. The first Ukrainian ballistic missile test was indeed very successful, and I congratulate our defense industry complex on this.
This is where all the official information ends for now. However, several experts have already speculated about what kind of missile this might be and what its characteristics are. Attempts to create ballistic weapons were made by Kyiv long before the war with Russia. Ukrainian engineers have been working on this task almost since the collapse of the Soviet Union.
In fact, in Ukraine, After the 1990s, there was only one complex left in service. This is the Tochka-U complex, which by the 2000s was considered morally obsolete and essentially needed replacement. And in fact, from around the late 1990s to the early 2000s, there was a need to create a new missile complex using ballistic missiles.
During the modernization, the Tochka-U transformed into the operational tactical missile complex Sapsan, which in recent years was updated, refined and named Chrom-2. According to analysts, it was precisely on the basis of this weapon that Ukrainian ballistics were developed.
As of 2022, the complex Sazak itself was not ready. It did not go into serial production. There were some developments, possibly even a so-called prototype was created. But at the same time, unfortunately, it was not about so-called serial production.
Either there was a lack of funds or the will of the leadership, as in the case with Yanukovych, who blocked the project. In short, it did not go beyond experiments. However, since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, Ukraine has significantly increased its production of domestic weapons. This also affected the currently most classified missile industry, the pinnacle of which were the developments of the Thunder II project.
If we talk about the declared armament, it is most likely referring to the Thunder II complex, as this was actually the most thoroughly and meticulously developed project.
It is worth noting that Thunder II existed in two versions, an export version with more limited capabilities, and a Ukrainian version where engineers tried to maximize the potential of the missile complex, hence the different characteristics found in open sources. But the main question of how far the Ukrainian ballistic missile can travel remains unanswered. During the development stage, the flight range was stated to be several hundred kilometers. However, even then, engineers claimed that it could be increased more than twice.
The basic version involved the development of a so-called missile capable of striking at a distance of up to 300 kilometers and carrying a warhead of about half a ton. That's 500 kilograms. There you go. However, this is a system that was planned for export. The possibility was initially incorporated into the system itself for the development of longer-range missiles capable of hitting targets at distances of 800 kilometers or more.
Missiles for such systems now typically fly at a range of 1,000 to 1,200 kilometers, and considering the close cooperation with our Western partners, it is possible that Ukraine already possesses these technologies. But even with the specifications that were mentioned a few years ago, it can be confidently stated that both Moscow and the entire Moscow region are within the strike zone. However, analysts believe that Ukraine is unlikely to fire at the Kremlin. For now, it is evident that the few ballistic missile samples will most likely be used to destroy Russia's military potential.
The strike could target primarily this critical military infrastructure. First and foremost, these are airfields, aviation bases for both tactical and strategic purposes. Speaking of range, it's about up to 300 kilometers. If we talk about a range of around 500 kilometers, this could include not only airfields, but also more serious targets. For example, military production facilities.
Speaking of production, likely after successful tests, the main task our defense industry is working on is increasing the number of these missiles. How many of them Ukraine has today is, of course, classified information. However, there are probably not very many missiles. The situation will change significantly when the missile goes into mass production.
Now, we understand that there are also so-called security factors that require, for example, the creation of either protected production facilities or actually moving part of the production outside of Ukraine, which can also affect the possibility of such the speed of production. That's it. But in general, when it comes to mass production, it usually takes about 1.5 to 2 years. This is about bringing mass production to planned capacities.
And what can Russia counter against the Ukrainian missile? In words, Russian governors claim to shoot down literally everything that flies over Russian territory. However, fires at Russian refineries after strikes are extinguished for weeks. Once we have ballistic missiles, there will be even more fires in Russia.
We are forced to use a large number of drones simply because we do not have our own missiles, either cruise or ballistic, of medium and long range.
To be fair, it should be noted that Russian air defense is indeed capable of shooting down ballistic missiles. Experts claim that the S-300 or S-400 systems have good potential for this. However, they are still far from the performance of the Ukrainian Patriot SAMP-T or NASAMS.
The interception probability of systems like the S-300 and S-400 generally ranges between 50 to 70%. This means that when launching 3 to 4 missiles, at least 1 or 2 of them will be able to bypass the air defense system and reach the target.
At the same time, it should not be forgotten that most of these air defense systems are engaged in shelling the border regions of Ukraine. However, there is clearly a shortage of them in the Russian rear. Therefore, there will be plenty of work for the Ukrainian missile, which no one will be telling where it can strike and where it cannot. Did you like this video? Then don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to our new Arsenal channel. The link is in the description below the video.